Ah, here we go again.
Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Nikke slash general shift up news or Project Spirits news. The Nikke community is once again freaking out. Now, I don't know, maybe I just shouldn't even be touching these issues anymore, but people are still very riled up, whatever your opinion is, about the Chinese launch of Nikke and whether that's fair or not to the other servers that have already existed. And, there's a lot of sensitivity there and feeling like they're not getting a return on their investment for like money and time that has gone into Nikke. So that's all I'll say about that specifically, but I just bring that up to provide some context for what we're actually talking about now. And that is actually something very exciting that ShiftUp has given a little bit more detail about one of their upcoming projects. So ShiftUp announced another game called Project Witches as far back as like 3 years ago, I want to say, possibly longer than that. I'm not sure. But it was kind of on their website as another thing that they were working on. And this was like, again, before Nikke launched and like when Destiny Child was still like their main and really kind of only thing. And then they had Nikke coming up really soon. And then they had Stellar Blades still listed as kind of a secret project, and then Project Witches. And now we've finally gotten a little more info on Project Witches, which has officially been changed to Project Spirits. Now, this is not the game's final name. Project Spirits is just kind of the updated project name, I guess you could say. And we get a little bit of teaser art for it, and it looks fantastic. And I will talk a little bit more about this art and kind of the history of it in a second here. But I just want to just go back to what I started with and just tell people to kind of relax. So there's a lot of people that are worried that Nikke is now going to shut down, go to end of service when Project Spirits comes out. Now, I can't see the future. Nobody can. Who knows? Maybe that will happen, but I highly doubt it, okay? So Project Spirits, I would say, is likely to come out like end of 2026 or sometime in 2027. Who knows? And release dates get shifted all the time. Maybe it won't come out until 2028 or 2029, or it'll just get canceled altogether. We don't know. We really don't know. But, if Project Spirits comes out, I don't see this having any negative impact on Nikke. Now, people are concerned that because a few months after Nikke launched, they shut down Destiny Child. But I would remind people that ShiftUp is in a very, very different spot than they were a couple of years ago. ShiftUp started as just an indie developer, and they, launched Destiny Child, I almost want to say, as a little bit of a proof of concept. Now, it was a full game, but it was their very first project, and you can really tell that they were kind of figuring things out, and they applied a lot of those learnings to Nikke. And Destiny Child was really never financially viable. It was free-to-play friendly to a fault. And they really didn't make a lot of money on it. And you can see the earnings from Destiny Child to Nikke are just like dramatically different. They went from making like a few $100,000 a month to making, millions a month. And a good month, has a history of making like 30 million, 40 million in a month, even though of course that's kind of leveled off and come back down to earth. And maybe they're making like 10 million, 5 million, 4 million, things have cooled off a little bit because it's, an older game. But the point is, Nikke has just like launched the company way up to where it is. They also got the publishing deal with Tencent or Level Infinite. And, unless Nikke takes like a dramatic turn for the worse and like revenue tanks for it for whatever reason, I think Nikke still has a very healthy, long life ahead of it. Whether that's like 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 more years, I don't know. I can't tell you. But I think that Nikke is in a good place. And if Nikke does shut down, I don't think it will be the fault of Project Spirits. So I kind of want to lay those fears to rest. Again, no one can promise anything. No one can see the future. But I don't think this is any cause for actual concern. And I think, as fans of ShiftUp or Nikke, we should just be excited for yet another project to come out from ShiftUp. And they've done a lot of cool things, and I think this is just going to be just another thing to add to the list. I mean, they've never really done us wrong. So, we've had Destiny Child, which was cool. We had Nikke, which just like was on a wholly new level and is an amazing game. Then we got Stellar Blade, which was an amazing surprise for their first console release, and now it's coming out on PC. It's one of my favorite games. The combat in it is incredible. And so Project Spirits will be really cool. And so they say here, they just have a little blurb on it. It says, Project Spirits is Shift Up's new flagship project, a subculture cross-platform title that embraces the concept of Eastern fantasy. As a new IP following Stellar Blade and Nikke, it is currently in development as a top-tier quality game for the industry, building on Shift Up's proven track record of expertise in IP creation demonstrated through previous projects. And I would say, yes, they have demonstrated their capabilities through previous projects. So it's kind of cool. It's interesting that they refer to this as a new flagship project. So this will be, kind of a main thing for them. Just like Stellar Blade was. Stellar Blade came out, it didn't have any impact on Nikke. If anything, we're getting more cool stuff for Nikke because of Stellar Blade, so don't worry about that. But then it's interesting they call it a subculture cross-platform title. Now, we can try and interpret this and read into a lot of things. We have no idea what that really means, but cross-platform is cool. That means at the very least, it's probably going to be PC and mobile, or PC and console. Or maybe all three. It'll be like a PC, PS5, and mobile game. I don't know. We have seen some things like that with some Hoyo games, I believe. It's not impossible for that to happen. Interesting that they call it a subculture game. So this might be like an actual MMO, like a continuous world where people log in and out and like can meet other people like in an open world kind of thing. Who knows? That's purely speculation, but I could see that potentially happening. Do we have the next Black Desert or WoW killer on here? I don't know. Probably not. But I'm very excited for it. So now I want to talk a little bit more about the art specifically, and people have called this out as being very reminiscent of Destiny Child, and I absolutely agree, and there is a good reason for that. That is because this is art by Hyun-tae Kim. For those of you who don't know, or maybe a lot of people know Hyun-tae Kim as the CEO of Shift Up, which he is, but what some of you might not know is that Hyun-tae Kim has been in the video game industry for a long time, and before founding Shift Up, he was actually in the art department and worked on a number of really cool games, including Blade and Soul and Magna Carta, and of course Destiny Child and Nikke and Stellar Blade, and now Project Spirits, formerly Project Witches. And you can definitely see the through line here, the consistency in the art style. I'm a huge fan of this art style. I kind of like that it's very unique. I mean, it's reminiscent of like the sort of like mainstream Japanese anime style, but it definitely has his own unique flair, kind of with the way he draws eyes and mouths and like the sort of slightly exaggerated like curvature to people. And I don't mean just that like, it's curvy girls, but sort of just the way he makes characters curve is kind of interesting, and I think that's kind of cool. This is definitely the most subtle in Nikke, but we could see it in some of the earlier art for Nikke and characters, specifically like in Rappy and Emma. We can see that a lot, and you do still see it a little bit, but they definitely shifted to sort of a more mainstream traditional art style in Nikke. But this was really strongly seen in Destiny Child in a lot of the characters, and it's cool to see it here in Project Spirits. I hope they stick with it. I think that it's a really cool, unique art style and something that's kind of like really in the DNA of Shift Up. So I hope they don't end up steering away from this. The other thing that's kind of cool is that it says it's an Eastern fantasy game. So I haven't played a lot of games or, had a lot of contact with like quote unquote Eastern fantasy titles, because even a lot of like Korean developed games or Japanese developed games will often be put in like a European fantasy. There are some out there, of course, like, Black Myth Wukong and whatever, but I don't think this is going to really be that type of thing. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what this is actually like. But again, I'm just really excited for it. Let me know what you think about the game. Are you excited about it? Again, this is really early days. We have a year, 2, maybe 3 years. And yeah, have you ever played any of previous games where Hyun-Tae Kim has done character design and art for it, like Magna Carta? Yeah, let me know. I'm hyped. I think this is only positive news. It's good to see more stuff. And Shift Up, keep bringing us the goods. Keep cooking. They are doing well. All right. After this video, we're probably going to get back to some guides for Ethereum restart. So subscribe so you don't miss those, as well as more Shift Up and Nikke news. We're coming into the second half of K's event, and then hopefully the Stellar Blade collab right after that. If nothing else, we are going to get the Nikke Stellar Blade collab in Stellar Blade for the PC launch. If it doesn't happen simultaneously with Nikke, but I feel like it has to, right? It has to. All right, guys, I'm going to quit babbling. Check out my Twitch channel below, my Discord below, and I will catch you guys in the next video or stream.